What about you?
Frustrating.
What was your experience like, building the church down in Harrisburg? What do you remember? If anything. It was kind of a long time. I mean, it was a long time ago. I don't know.
I remember that. Trying to put it in a concise, well-spoken thought.
That was so poetic today.
Donkey, yeah.
I would say, from my perspective of things, I kind of started to not slowly shift my anger from being mad at mom and dad to God. And I actually solidified like helping out, say my internals. I solidified everything. I'm gonna help out. I'm just doing this to help out my dad. But when it comes to God, man, you crazy. Yeah, because you're the one who you ripped me from the family. All this crazy stuff that's happening back in St. Louis, we can't get there because we doing what you said to do.
Yeah, that's the voice too. Yeah.
Voice. So I started to just be like apathetic towards church stuff. I didn't care. I didn't care about the people. Anytime we went to church events where other people are talking to us, I didn't care about those people. I didn't care what they had to say. God bless your heart, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, bro, what is you talking about? I don't even know what that means.
Oh, yeah.
It was just, yeah, I just stopped caring about all that stuff. And the times where I would look back in on myself and be like, you know what, I shouldn't think like that. I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't think or treat church people like that. We go out into the community and, saying, Johnny and Davey, y'all remember the community just looked at us like we was crazy.
That's true. That's true.
And, it was blatant. We would see that, we would feel it. And that just reinforced what was going on in me. Like, oh, okay. God's tripping. Yeah, God's tripping. So are you. And one of the moments that really, really hit me where I was just like, all right, I'm done with church people. Church people out here tripping. They're not church people. I'm not even seeing eye to eye with God right now. And I'm closer to God. And I felt like these people. It was one day oh my God, I hated the day too. We had to go out and pass out flyers.
Oh man.
Oh my God. I hated that. I didn't want to do it. It was stupid.
I still remember that. I still think about that randomly. I can't believe we did that. Hey man, I ain't gonna lie to you. Sometimes I doubled up on some houses. I'm like, you know what? Need to get rid of some of these things. Go ahead and double up, triple up.
Terrible.
Oh, right, man. Hey man, I did what y'all had to do.
Hey man.
I had a couple more flyers left over, and I just so happened to see a guy in his truck. And he was reading the Bible. So I'm just like, ooh, sweet. I got this, dude. I got this. You know what I'm saying? I've been training for this. They trained us in Metro and trained us in youth ministry to talk to people. I got this. So I hand him the flyer. He reading his Bible. What's going on, young man? Smacking. Bro, you know the church smack. What's going on, young man? How are you today? I'm like, hand him the flyer. I'm like, we got a church around the corner. Whenever you get the chance, one free Sunday, come check us out. So he's just, I start walking away, and he says, hold on. Let me read this. And it's just like, okay, cool. You about to read it? We about to have a little conversation. He reads it, and he looks over his glasses and looks at me and does the little side eye thing like, so what's this patch to preach? And I'm like,
can I find out? Why are you asking me this?
I'm like, at
The
first I'm
word.
thinking like, didn't you just read the flyer, bro? So I look at him, I look confused, and I say he preaches the Bible. And he was just like, and he does like a little haughty thing. He's just like, huh, well, yeah, I know that, but what does he preach? What lessons does he preach?
Come find out.
What's his teaching? Like, what's his teaching? Does he teach it? Well, what are the so he's just asking me these questions, trying to like, what does he teach? What does he preach? What is the messages? Da 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 da. Then I can't answer none of them because he just sees this dumb look on my face. So he finally reads the situation like, oh, he don't know what I'm talking about. So he just so he stops and he just goes, oh, okay. What are the 3 laws? And so I'm like,
are you quizzing me?
Yeah, he starts quizzing. So I'm look, David looking like that's the same look I had on my face, David. I'm like,
what are the 3 laws of what?
3 laws of what? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, so I start stuttering. I'm like, he's just like, so he names off 3 random things, and he's just like, remember those laws. You need to remember them, okay? Remember them. And he just holds up the flyer, and he's just like, remember them laws.
Yeah, whatever.
So like,
get out of here.
okay.
Right.
So
Bye.
I walk back. I feel bad because I don't know if I reach this man. I'm feeling terrible because he just deconstructed me in a parking lot.
Right. He just wanted to feel superior.
Yeah. But I didn't know that. I didn't know any of that stuff because that's not the type of atmosphere we grew up around church. So going back, I talked to mom about it. I'm start crying because I'm just like, I feel terrible now because this man just, I don't know what we teach or preach, mom. So I tell mom just looks at me and she's just like, 3 laws? What? So I remember the things that he tells me. And she was just like, you remember those? Boy, forget those things. You don't know what he's talking about. Like, don't feel pressure to remember that kind of stuff. That Chris right there is religion. That's the thing that we're here to break. And I'm like, huh, religion? Well, that sucks. So that was my first taste when it comes to the religion aspect of religion, like
of church, of church in general, really. Yeah.
So that kind of stuff, when I saw that and experienced that for myself, I could see that over everybody that walked through the doors. Everybody had a different level and variation and density to their religion, and nobody cared. Nobody had a heart. So for me, who had a hurt heart, I could see everybody else in here. I'm like, oh, y'all fake. Even though, you know what I'm saying, my pops out here trying to do what God says do. I'm mad at God right now, but it's at the very least I know what he's talking about. And everybody around here just like, I mean, he preached okay. But you hearing people, saying critique dad on his preaching style. So I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, so I heard right. So I heard that, like, those kind of critiques like a couple times, and I kept them like to myself until I don't know that I can't remember the time frame, and I'm not trying to remember the time frame, but it was a time frame of when I guess it was like a big family honest moment of how there was a ton of people that would just go and talk with dad and rip him apart about what he preached about or his style, the way he preached it, and would threaten people or would threaten him and say, you need to stop teaching this. If you don't stop teaching this, I'm gonna tell the other churches, and ain't nobody is going to invite you to their church. Yeah. So it was like that kind of level of stuff what I saw and what we was hit with immediately. And I didn't like that. I'm like, I may not be cool with God right now, but don't talk about my dad.
Don't talk about my daddy.
Don't talk about my mom. Don't talk about my dad. Don't do that.
What we saw at Metro, we were like, oh man, people would like this and want this. And then like we went to another environment where it seemed like people didn't want it. And it's like, okay. So like in my brain, like as a logical, more business oriented person, I'm like, oh, like our store doesn't work here. We need to pack up and go. Like this ain't, obviously this isn't working. We need to pack things up and go. Right. It's just like, this is how business is. I understand. What they want, we don't have. So we need to pack up and go. God will take care of them. It'll be fine. Like God is all knowing. He'll fix it. God will fix it. He's fixed many things. We need to go. Like I'll never forget. It's when our church had ebbs and flows. And I think this is during one of the seasons where it was like a lower turnout. I'll never forget the night we were driving back.
This is the story, David.
We were driving back, and I was so angry and I was so mad, and I'll never forget. Like I just asked mom and dad, I was just like, "What are we doing this for?" And like everyone in the car like laughed and stuff because like, and our dad was just like, "We're not laughing because it's funny. It's just like we're laughing because like we all like feel that, and like that was like a nice coming together moment for the family." Because it's just like, because you know how like sometimes like in a family or even like among friends or whatever, you're just like, am I the only one who thinks this? Like, am I the only one going through it? Because I think up until that point, we never really talked about it corporately. Like we never really talked like as a family, like, hey, like what do we all think? Like, is everybody okay? It's just like I felt like we never talked about it, and I was just so fed up.
We were going years. I think it was like a couple of years. A year or two?
Yeah, it was a year or two. Yeah. We were definitely still in high school because I'll just never forget. I was like, what are we doing this for? And I was so mad. And we just had that moment of like, mom and dad kind of explain it. Yeah. Of like talking it through, just like, this is what we do it for. Like at the end of the day, it was like that message of like, no matter what it looks like, God called us here. And this is what we need to be doing. Like, even if we save the one person, because we never know like what that one person may do. And we need to always be in God's will, regardless of how it looks, what it feels like. We should be in God's will, because being out of God's will is far worse than being in his will. Like, even if you're upset with it. And like, and it's just kind of like an attitude adjustment, right? Because like, it was up until that, like, it was just like, man, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. I don't want to like, at least for me, that was a good moment for me, like an attitude change. So it was like, well, if we're gonna be here anyway, might as well do this. Yeah, readjust my thinking and get my life together. Like that was, at least for me, that was a changing moment for me on at least my attitude towards it. It's just like I'll at least try to be better about it and be less mad at God.
That was David's attitude, because it took me years. David learned real quick. I didn't learn real quick.
Well, also you were older, right? So like naturally, when you're older, you're kind of more set in your ways. Naturally, I just feel like, you know, especially Chris, you spent 18 years in St. Louis. In Metro with the same people in and out, whether that be family or like church people in general, like, you know what I mean? So you had a longer time. So I feel like, I mean, naturally you would probably have a harder time, and probably would take you a little longer to you know, get with the program, so to speak.
Also, I wasn't staying staying there either. I was moved as soon as I turned 18 and I was going to college out of state. I knew that was happening, and I was
well, because I was gonna ask you
out of here.
I was gonna ask you, right? So like, obviously it's a long story, so we can condense it. But now, obviously, Chris, you live in Tulsa, right? So you don't live in Harrisburg. Dave lives in Canada, which is not Harrisburg. So, so I know, Chris, did you go to RU? Like, how'd you end up in Tulsa? I remember.
David hooked me up, man. When
trying to get everybody out.
Yeah, he did. David really did. He got me up out of there. Because Johnny was out staying on campus. David was
staying in Pennsylvania. That's crazy.
And I was stuck in Pennsylvania. This dude, I couldn't get a steady job. Dad watched me get jobs. Bro, I couldn't even get a job at McDonald's.
Why?
That's rough.
Why?
If I remember correctly, I was supposed to come back and finish some paperwork. And when I called back to let them know I'm on my way, the person who picked up the phone was just like, "Who are you?" And I'm green. Like, I'm trying to finish the interview process, and the hiring manager was blah blah blah. Like, he told me to come back, and he was just like, he ain't at this branch.
Huh.
And we don't got your paperwork. So, and that's how she ended the conversation. So I was just like, okay. Like, if you don't got my paperwork and you don't know who I am, I guess that's it.
To talk about.
Yeah, I guess what's to talk about then, I guess. So yeah, that was very very depressing. It was very depressing.
Yeah, I'm sure.
David's the one he got me up out of Pennsylvania. When you graduated and you was getting married, David?
Yeah.
Moving out of your apartment, you said, "Bro, take over my
bothering you."
Yeah, take over my spot. And I said, yeah.
You stayed in Pennsylvania for that long? Wow.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Yeah, it was a long time.
You did a whole bit. That was a whole what?
Not a bit.
It was nearly
what, a 10-year bid? Like, how long was that?
Yeah. Nearly 10 years.
Yeah, that was a long time.
Whoa, I was just guessed. Look at that. 10 years. Yep. 10-year bid. That's crazy.
It was because it was a struggle. Like, I couldn't find, like, there were no steady jobs. I could just do a couple classes. I did like one more semester and all that stuff. Like, the first semester was like scholarship, ran out of scholarship money, got back to working as much as I could, saving up money, take another semester. I bombed that semester because all the stuff was going down, and my attention was zero. I was wasting money. It was, but I just struggling to find steady jobs, save up money as much as we could. When Johnny and David was there, and Justin spent some time with us too. Somehow I got everybody hooked up with jobs, and y'all were there that day. They pretty much was just like, "Yeah, we don't need y'all."
I'll never forget that. Yeah. Car broke down, and then we moved heaven and earth to get there, and they were just like, "Yeah, no, we don't need y'all." We was like, busted our butts there I was sober because we worked hard every day. They go every single time.
Yeah. Chris, I want to ask you something though. How did like just your 10-year bid in Harrisburg, like how do you feel like, you know, the process from like beginning to end and like, you know, being there, like how do you feel like that affected your mental health? Because like I know like you and me are the same, we're like we feel the feelings, okay? Like we feel all the feelings.
Yeah.
All right. Like I feel, you know, so I especially I imagine that probably affected you, you know, probably maybe I don't know. I'm not gonna like not to diminish Johnny and Babe, but like I feel like that probably affected you.
I was only there for 4 years, so mine wasn't that bad. I think that's why I have the brightest outlook of Harrisburg, because I was there only for high school and I was gone.
Right, and Chris was there for 10 years, so I feel like it probably maybe affected Chris probably deeper and like differently than you two. So yeah, that's my question. How did it affect your mental health and just mentally and emotionally and stuff like that?
I would say it was I would say very like strong, very damaging. Mom and dad, then they've sat down and had this conversation with us about, no, you all are in actual depression because you all don't exhibit the same behavioral patterns.
I remember that conversation.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, is this depression? Yeah, I remember that. They were just like, that's depression. I was like, oh, depression. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Wow. That's not what that feels like.
Yeah. And since I had the longest time being there, it was a huge mix of things. That is the reason why when the moment we got there, I started writing poetry, because it just helped me to help me to cope with everything, help me to work things out in my heart and my mind and my spirit. That's literally what a lot of the poetry is just me venting whatever it is out, because I just got sick of it sitting in me and just festering. So I put it out on paper.
Yeah.
It didn't always help, but I mean, I've basically 10 years of poetry, so I guess it helps some.
Yeah. But, and I mean, I have to commend you, because I feel like, I mean, keep it a buck, right? There are 1,000 different ways to deal with things, you know, and I feel like that probably is the healthiest, you know what I mean? Like, especially as pastors' kids, because I think people don't realize, like, when your parents have called, or when God has called your parents to move, and, you know, you didn't ask, like, I didn't ask for none of this, I didn't ask to be here, I didn't ask for none of this, you know, I'm along for the ride. And I feel like sometimes, you know, pastors' kids might turn to different things. They might turn to drugs, they might turn to alcohol, they might turn to all kinds of different things. So, I mean, I have to commend you for choosing that route, because I mean, it's very possible, and just keep it a buck, you could have chose a totally different route, a totally unsafe, more destructive route. So I have to commend you for that, you know? And I think it's still cool that you guys are still close now. Like, you guys are in 3 different states, 2 different countries. Y'all are married. Dave has kids, but y'all are still, you know, still pretty close. I think that's wonderful. All right, y'all. So that was our show for this time. Okay, make sure y'all tune in the next couple of weeks. You know, we're gonna get more into Chris's experience. We're gonna ask him all the juicy questions, honey. Hey. Okay. Until then, make sure you subscribe to our podcast. Make sure you tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a friend about our podcast, because we lit and we honest, and you know, you're gonna get all the experience. So until then, make sure you have these same conversations with your family. If anything resonated that we talked about, make sure you have these same conversations with your family. Until then, peace out, y'all.
Peace. Yeah, they're gonna ask Chris for a